Hi guys, welcome to Sons of Cain. On this week's video we're going to look at the body mechanics with our striking arm. With this video, when we go around teaching seminars, we know people are quite stiff, especially in the wrist area when they start to strike with a cane. So we're going to look at how to adapt that, get your body mechanics going and increase the power of your strikes.
So we're not looking at your physical strength, but how to apply your body to work for you that doesn't require a lot of upper body or lower body strength. So when we see people using the cane for the first time, I actually find this difficult to do now, but they're using all of their arm and just their arm from the shoulder. It's almost like one of those old action figures where you press the head and the arm comes down. That very stiff motion. And unless you're really physically strong, you're not going to get a lot of power out of that. And the other problem is it will actually affect your wrist and your elbow and your shoulder joint. So it's something to be aware of. What we're going to do is show you how to get some power developing without having to increase your physical strength. So we're just going to look at the body dynamics of this. So what we're looking at here is to develop our striking power without necessarily having to build up our physical strength, though we will be looking at that in some later videos. So the simplest way to sort of practice this is to actually bring your power up from the floor up into your arm and extend it down through to the cane. So I'm just going to stand side on. I've got my left foot slightly forward. I'm going to exaggerate this. Now, Kev can tell me who sang that song, Mr. Soft.
Steve Harley, Cockney Rebel.
There you go. So, Steve Harley, the Cockney Rebel, Mr. Soft. That whole thing of being soft and relaxed. I've got my left foot slightly forward. So, to exaggerate, I'm going to start with my foot and I'm going to lift up the heel, bend the knee, then I'm going to rotate the hip. And as you can see, I'm starting to generate this motion where my hips are rocking left to right as my foot is moving. Then my torso, my core is moving. My chest and shoulders. I'm doing nothing with my arm. I'm just letting that hang loose. So I'm just exaggerating this motion. So it's kind of like a whipping motion with my body. And then what I will be doing is just bring the arm into more. So as you can see, it's moving more. The way I practice this, and people give me odd looks when I'm sort of training and I'm just standing there doing nothing. Feet on the floor, I'm just standing there and I'm pushing off my toes, pushing through my hips, let my shoulders go and my arms loose. Then occasionally, I just bring my arms up, I will stretch them as hard as I can, and then I will just relax, bend my knees slightly and just let them drop. So I'm not using any physical force, I'm just letting my body do the work. So from this position, left foot slightly forward, right foot back, pushing from the heel, from the toes, heel, ankle, through the knee, travelling up the leg to the hips, moving the hips left to right, getting the rotation in, getting the core in, chest, shoulder, and then the arms can start coming in. With the arm, it's not straight, it's going to be this kind of rotation. So from the shoulder, I'm bringing my hand in a circle in front of my face. So I'm bending at the elbow, bending at the wrist, rotating round, and then extending out. So everything, if you've ever played badminton, I always say, watch badminton people, they don't use their arm, they're just using their wrist, they're flexing the wrist, pulling with their little finger, and rotating through with that. And that's where they're getting the power. It's not a massive swing, it's just this short, sharp flick of the wrist, and that's what we're aiming for. With my cane, I'm just adding this in, so these are exaggerated motions, just to get the feel. So you can see the arm starting to go, and then it's coming through. So I'm transferring everything through. So it starts at my foot, it travels up through my hips, through my arm, ends up at the wrist, and finally the cane comes into play. So it's the last thing that happens, not the first thing that happens. That is what you normally see. Cane, the cane goes in, there's none of this behind. As you progress with this, so I've started with this big exaggerated motion, you'll find from your guard position, whatever it may be, you will do this and you won't physically be able to see it. You'll be driving the power through, but it's a very short motion. So you're not seeing this whole body mechanic. It is there, but it's been reduced, but you're still generating the same amount of power. You can do this not just with a cane, you can do it with a punch. I'm very fond of doing this with elbows. Very good for close in work as well, because you're generating all of your body weight and you're putting it into your cane over a small focused area. You're using it on your fist or using it on your elbow, whatever it is that you're using. So this exaggerated motion becomes reduced, and then you end up with a very small motion that's very quick but generates a hell of a lot of power. The way I view it is, it's like a high velocity round. It's smaller, but you get that penetrating force that drives through and continues through. It's not this blunt form which hits the surface, the force remains on the surface and dissipates. It penetrates beyond the target. This is just my arm, and I find this difficult to do now. I'm going to try and keep it stiff. So I'm just using my arm. I'm not saying that's not going to hurt, because it will. But you can see I have to use my whole arm, and you can hear the noise it's making, which is a good indication. So if I'm in my guard position, whatever it may be, as you know, we talk about ready position, it might be coming up from here, but I'm going to use this exaggerated motion. And you can see, I'm not putting any physical effort into that. I'm not using any core muscles, as it were. I'm just letting the body whip through. If I use just my hand, arm, good old slap. From here, if I do that exaggerated motion, you can feel and see the difference, but I'm not expending as much energy as I would be if I'm driving with my arm, and you're relying on physical strength, not a core strength.
Right, as Chris has just shown you, it's all body mechanics. But what if you're in a chair? Now you can either be in a wheelchair like I am at the moment, you could be seated at a dining table, on a bus or whatever. So one of the great things I like to do is warming up. So we've got the exercises just to get the wrists supple. This stops any injury later on in life. But you've also got these exercises. If you look at our videos, you'll see that we do these as warm-ups. So my mechanics is slightly different. I haven't got the waveform. If I go side on, I actually hold the cane slightly different to Chris. I'm more two fingers than the actual full palm. Reason being is, as it comes back, as you can see, the cane is not in the full grip of the hand. But as it comes through, the fingers come over and I tend to squeeze my hand shut, as well as use the wrist motion. So that when I come through to strike, I get more power if I use that strike as opposed to the other one. If Callum comes in with his pad, and I'll show you just a little visual demonstration on how the different strike goes. So if I don't have my hand open, it's a nice powerful strike. But if I just use the two fingers, the finger and thumb to start with, and as I come through, I then just squeeze. Also, for people in chairs, I'm squeezing my body in, my core in, so it's almost like bringing both hands across and like for a hug. So if you do that, it starts to give you a bit more power. This also works for downward strikes as well. As you can see, it's just the finger and thumb. As it comes over, I'm starting to grab, squeeze, and then point with my wrist. When you're chair bound, or even on two canes, we don't have the luxury of giving full movement. You may have a disability where you don't have a full range of movement. So while you're at home, while you've got your cane, and if you can work with someone, it's even better. Just find where your bit is, whether it's like squeezing in, or just using your fingers, or your wrist. But whatever you do, once you've decided on what gives you the most power, do exercises to build that up. I use a squeezy ball to build my fingers up. We go to the gym, we use tension bands as well. So keep in mind that whatever you do, whatever your strike is, you have to adapt it for yourself. You have to build the muscles up around that, and that will give you the power you need.
When I was talking about body mechanics, at the moment I'm sitting, and obviously I can't do what I was doing earlier if you're a chair user or have difficulty moving. But there's a way we can do a variant on that. So normally my cane is in my right hand, so this time I'm going to start my movement from my left hand and I'm going to bring it through. So if you're a fan of the 70s, you might think a bit of a shimmy, but this is what you're doing. You're going to feel it coming through across your chest, across your power zone, through to the other side. So you're getting this motion. So rather, as Kev was saying, not just the arm, getting the finger and thumb, driving it through, but driving it from the left hand first and driving it through, and you will get that extra power coming through. A good way to practice this is with a willing partner who isn't actually sure what's coming on. So I tried this with various objects. What is really good is a large ball. But what I'm going to do is Callum's just going to be, I nearly said a tool, but he's not. But he's just going to be a training aid in this situation. So what I'm going to do is roll his head through. So I'm going to bring it round, and I'm doing this. So I'm getting this motion going through. What I'm trying not to do to practice this is use my hips or my core just from my chest. So I'm going through, round and through, and I'm getting this circle with my arms. If you are fully able-bodied and you haven't got a cane, this is a really good technique to do with getting the whole mechanics in. If you've got your cane and doing this, you will get some surprising effects with it. But for a seated position, so if Callum comes in, again he's doing half the job for me by leaning in. So when I'm striking, I'm bringing it all the way through. But if I'm not striking, I've still got this whole rotation and whipping motion going in. Depending where I've gripped the cane will determine what technique I can put on and what opportunity will arise.
Okay, as Chris has done before with this roll motion, coming through for the chest and there. It's a little bit harder for me because my back is against my rest. So I'm just trying to... You've got the power, but it wouldn't be something I would go for in my situation. If you're seated at a chair, then maybe yes, but for me, getting that sort of rolling going is a little bit harder in a chair because I've got two rests plus the back.
What we do, as we say, we always do exaggerated motions. We do these exaggerated motions. When you're in a pressure situation, your motions become shortened. So your actions become shortened. So if you exaggerate the movement, when you acquire it, this big exaggerated motion becomes that short, focused motion, which is what we want. The only way to get this right is to practice. So I spent 3 weeks getting this right. I've taught people and they've taken 20 minutes. I know some people are still struggling with it. So it's an individual thing. But find a way that works for you. I practice sitting in a chair. I've tried it in a chair. As Kev says, you can't do it in a wheelchair as easily because of the restraints you've got. But sitting down, you might be at a table. After my car blew up, I was taking the bus, so it came in useful a few times there. So think about your environment. Don't just practice in this one static plane. Think in the other dimensions. What if I'm on a bus in a restaurant? And I hate saying this, what if you're in the toilet? Because I've had that experience once where somebody burst through the door when I'm minding my own business. So when you're at home, think, well, what if that happened now? So think about your environment and how can I apply this?
Right guys, thanks for watching. As you can see, the body mechanics gives you that little bit extra to start with, and then as you start practicing this, it just gets harder and harder and harder with the strikes. Give us a thumbs up, write a comment down below, let us know what you think. If there's anything you'd like to see, any subject at all, give us a shout.
As always, if you haven't done already, please subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell. Don't forget to free the fear.